Good. Obviously excited because I stan you, but I didn't even know that you watched my content. So that was funny when you said that.
I do actually. I do. I do. I was about to watch your latest video, which is that is that an April Fool? Actually, I'm not going to ruin it. Don't ruin it for me because I was
It's
shocked.
not, you wouldn't ruin it, but I would say you inspired it, and it's actually really funny. So
Okay.
if you like American race relations, you should definitely check it out.
Okay, I will be. I will be definitely. Yes, very,
Mhm.
very excited for that. But yes, I do watch your content. I do
Mhm.
watch your content. I watched your live stream going over your Reddit, well, the Reddit comments about you, all those
Oh yeah.
conspiracies about your relations with just pearly things and everything. That was interesting. Um,
Yeah.
yes, but firstly, how are you? How is pregnancy going for you? How are you doing?
Really good. I am about 8 months pregnant, so I'm supposed to, because it's April now, so I'm supposed to have my baby next month. But babies come when they come, so she could be more excited to enter the world. I wouldn't stop her. I'd be completely content for that to happen. But yeah, pretty much a textbook pregnancy, except for this one time that there were incidental findings and I had to get a bunch of testing done, which was super annoying.
Oh
So, like,
gosh.
modern medicine is a gift and a curse. You can get anxiety provoking testing, or you can survive eclampsia through cesarean section. So, it's like, pick your poison, right?
Ah,
So, it's
yeah.
been a good time for me.
Yes, yes. Oh, good. Oh, good. Oh, well, I'm glad that it's going well, but like 8 months, wow, that's incredible. It's
Thanks.
amazing. So,
Mhm.
yes, congratulations just in general. I mean, it's a
Mhm.
beautiful thing, amazing thing. So,
Thank
yes,
you. Hmm.
yes. Um, I don't know what you want to talk about, but I
Hmm.
did have sort of an idea just based. You left a comment on my last video, I think, from
Oh.
a few days ago. I did a video basically about this woman. There was this Twitter spat between this woman and her husband. They were fighting over looking after their kids. And I think I said something in my video about sort of there being like a lack of empathy between men and women in modern
Hmm.
relationships. And your comment was, I think, something along the lines of sort of with different roles come different like responsibilities. I was just wondering if you could elaborate on that, just for like my viewers, in terms of like anybody who doesn't know your content, say, uh,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, well, so I think that everyone's egalitarian until they have kids, right? And I've learned a lot about sex differences just being pregnant and then seeing some differences that happened with my husband. I have a pro-marriage platform, so I talk to wives, I talk to husbands, and I talk to singles, both men and women, and I've been doing it for about 2 years. So the same differences that I started to see in my husband, I heard from other women as well, meaning men's hormones tend to shift when they're sleeping next to a woman regularly, and then when they're sleeping next to a pregnant woman regularly, and then when they live in the same place as an infant. So everyone's egalitarian until they have kids, right? Because then they're forced to confront these sex differences. And I saw that with one of my professors. He shared a similar sentiment. So you can't really get away from gender roles. A lot of women are going to want to be with their children when they're small, and you don't get those first 5 years back. So whenever I see videos like the one that you commented on, where this wife is basically yelling at her husband and posting it, which, I could understand, the frustration, but you don't see what your spouse is doing behind the scenes. And I've seen this happen so many times because you could be staying home with the kids, this is a common sentiment I hear, and you could have a frazzled day. One of the kids could be out of pocket, your husband comes home, the house isn't clean, and his response is, wow, so you've been really lazy today. And you'd be looking at him like, you mother effer, like, what? No, it's just been an awful day. And then on the flip side, your husband could come home and he could be in a snarky mood and he might not be getting some things done around the house, and you would just think that he's just so deficient, when in reality you have no idea if he's just had an awful day at work where he was flamed by his boss, and you end up finding these things out later. But the initial response when you're in a, I would say, like a heterosexual relationship is, if you don't see it, then it doesn't exist, and that leaves you blind to a lot of the struggles that your partner goes through, or husband, wife, whatever you got.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely was thinking that with that video, because on social media you only see sort of a certain thing, and so you don't see anything. So there's sort of like this double background and this double sort of like background story that you're just not privy to at all. So it was interesting. It was very interesting. So yeah, thank you for elaborating on that. Um, oh yes, yeah. Sorry. In case you want to, did you want to ask anything of me? Because I do have some questions, but yeah.
Well, I mean, you can ask me questions because I don't think I have any for you other than I think we just have so much in common, believe it or not. I think Americans focus way too much on race. And I think it's just at a point you're like, you don't have anything else going on in your life that this is what you want to focus on. So that's been my thing lately. And I love your humor. There's some video that you did when you were talking about ABBA, because I would say that I'm a third culture kid as well, to where I had to blend like Latino culture and then modern American culture. And so, yeah, I've been called the coconut a time or two. So I just relate to a lot of your content so much. I'm like, can we just appreciate different cultures? Is that okay? Are we allowed to?
Exactly, exactly.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah. It's fascinating. Like sort of being in Portugal, where it's like just there's like people from everywhere. Like I see, white people with like dreadlocks and with all kinds of like hair and everything. I'm like, wow, you would not survive the internet today. I'm telling you, if you posted a picture of you with like with your African hair and that skin, you'd be crucified. So yeah, it's interesting. It is interesting, but I do think I think we are fixating a bit too much on race to our detriment, typically. But yes, yeah. I also, I'm surprised that you say that we have a lot in common, that you see us having a lot in common, because I would consider myself a feminist, and I know that you don't, and I know that the feminists come after you big time. On Reddit, it was I didn't believe when you did the stream yesterday, I think, about going on Reddit, looking at what feminists were saying about you. I was like, oh, surely they're not that obsessed with with Aly. And then I went on, I was like, wow, this is dominating people's lives. But I don't know, just in general, do you think that feminism has been a good for women? Do you think it's been like a positive for women generally? I mean, if we sort of like just excuse like the sort of the like melodramatic extreme sort of presentation of feminism online now, do you think that it has very generically in terms of I'd say like personal growth, a personal sense of being and becoming, which I found that feminism has really helped me with in terms of finding my own autonomy. Do you think it's been effective? Because, I consider myself a feminist, but then I also think, okay, I've been, for instance, in Portugal, and I'm staying in one of my ex-professors' sort of bachelor pads, and yesterday I had the most weird experience because he's like left, he's gone and is traveling and everything, so I'm here alone. And he left all his clothes in the washing machine. And I was like, well, I need to do my washing, but I'm going to have to do his washing if I want to do mine. And so I did his washing, and then I did his ironing. And then I started cleaning his house, and I started doing all these very housewifey things. And I was getting such fulfillment from this, honestly. I felt like life had purpose and meaning.
Right. So who is this male again?
He's my ex-professor. So I was like his protege, basically. So yeah.
Yeah, well, at least your professor let you. Like mine, one time I was invited over for, I think, tacos, and I went. And honestly, I just went back and forth with this professor for so long. But I tried to help him clean up after the taco thing, and he was like, oh, right, gender roles. And I just get so upset and frustrated because I wasn't brainwashed into gender roles. Like my grandma does it. I think in America, and I hate to bring race into it, but I think a lot of the times white liberals have a solipsistic point of view where it's like, oh, surely if somebody's engaging in gender roles, it's because they were forced to. When it's like, no, I just grew up watching my grandmother and she seems really happy. I mean, she was just here and she was just visiting. She loves feeding people. She gets a genuine kick out of when her food kicks behind and everyone's letting her know just how awesome it is. And I feel a lot of those ways too, but that's what I mean by it's natural, right? So this is a gentleman that you have respect for who might have some authority over some aspects of your life. For example, like you might go to him for, you said he was a professor, right? So there could be a subject where he is the subject matter expert, where you would defer to his authority. And that's not to say that you wouldn't defer to a female professor's authority. Like you might even do the same thing for a female professor who you looked up to, who was visiting and you wanted to be hospitable. So I just find that people tend to really overthink these things. And I've had experiences where I've invited liberal men over to my house and they have a hard time letting me serve them, which just frustrates me because how are you going to make me uncomfortable in my own home? But you can see this stuff in art. So I think a really interesting piece of art to look at femininity outside of a relationship is Les Miserables, but I think it's the first book. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but he's basically a priest. He's a main character who's a priest. But he is more of the masculine leading type. And his sister, she's she's literally a sister. She's his biological sister, and I think she's some sort of like a nun of some sort. And she refers to him and helps clean up around where they're living, and that's a normal thing to do. Like when my brother comes over, I want to make him a sandwich, and it's not a weird thing to me. He just is really happy when I put a slice of meat and a slice of cheese in between two pieces of bread. And then I ask him to do things for me, like paint my room, and he does it. So yeah, I'm with you on that.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. 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 Yes, because I was feeling a bit. I was also feeling a bit. I don't know. Sort of a bit conflicted at why I was getting so much enjoyment from doing this guy's ironing, but it was great. I was looking for more things to iron, more things to clean. It was brilliant. So. Yeah. I would definitely say that your content has definitely made me look far more introspectively at sort of like what I want and what makes me happy, and this idea of, you know, am I just going to be happy by being sort of a single go-getter on her own, and has that made me happy? And sort of realizing that hasn't made me happy has definitely made me think a bit more expansively about things, and I think also a bit more critically about my own feminism, even though like I am a feminist, but I think that nonetheless nothing is beyond critique and beyond criticism and beyond sort of evaluating. So yeah.
I would say in terms of feminism, I actually wrote about this on my Substack. Yeah, I'm one of those Substack nerds, but I wrote about this. I think that we have such a negative bias about men, because if we're going to look at something, for example, the woman's right to vote, for thousands of years, men did not have the right to vote under monarchies unless they were nobility, if that, and that would not have been most men. So I think that it was the natural course of action for when good men were liberated that they would then in turn liberate women, but they had to get it first. In the United States of America, all men getting the right to vote, I believe, is 1870, and then women getting that right to vote through the 19th Amendment is 1920. So that's a difference of maybe 50 to 60 years to where men get liberated, all of a sudden women do. And I mean, how far would our human species really get if one half of the population was oppressing the other half? I don't think that we would get very far. And I think that men have this inherent drive to be protective of women. And if feminism was about equality, why is it called feminism and not something like egalitarianism? Because feminism, that is all things that are good, things that are female, things that are feminine. But then who is the bad guy in feminism? The bad guy in feminism is the patriarchy. That prefix pater, that's father. So everything that's bad is paternal. And I think that it's really a demonization of one of the most appreciated archetypes of masculinity of men, which would be a father, because in context, a loving father is everything that you would want in a man. Whether you're a daughter, whether you're a wife, what have you, I think we're looking for that in men. But that's why I don't think that feminism can really take credit for what it has. If anything, it might have sped things up. And that's pretty much the only thing I'll give it credit for. But I think it was the natural course of action when we were done with the Industrial Revolution that women would have this amount of freedom. But we have to reflect on how were women living before. A really interesting series that you can watch is from the BBC. It hasn't seemed too propagandist to me, but Call the Midwife. It's
All
on
right.
Netflix. Yeah, yeah. And it's so cool because you get to see how women were in, I think it's in London, where these women are lower SES, and this is before birth control, right? So you could just see how women were burdened in the 1950s by having to bear children and not having autonomy over that at all. And then if you think about it, one of the reasons why women were limited in the past is just because we were simply like pregnant and breastfeeding if we did reproduce. Because there's also women who were so destitute they never got the opportunity to reproduce because that would have been an economic risk for them that they couldn't afford.
Yeah, yes, that's definitely given me something to think about. I think I think I tweeted recently about a book that I just read called Feminism Against Progress by Mary Harrington, and her sort of look into pre-industrial woman and how it was insofar as sort of women being at the home and sort of having that autonomy over their time and also over their labor in relation to childcare and looking after their kids, and sort of how that's really morphed and changed now post-industrialization, and sort of the downside of having sort of childcare beyond sort of the mother and the home is very interesting, and that sort of added a whole new perspective on sort of this, I think this a trope of sort of this woman sort of confined in the pre-industrial era to like the home and like oppression and having no means of making a living. It's interesting. I think it's interesting to see sort of this, I would say this new wave of sort of feminists that are in a way quite anti the dominance of sort of like third, fourth wave feminism. And I think it's very interesting to see, because I think it's more in line with what I sort of see the sort of more philosophical benefits of feminism for me, just psychologically, and navigating things and navigating sort of my way through things. But in terms of sort of a map for how to lead my life in relation to other people, in relation to family and things, I haven't found that in feminism personally. But it's interesting. It is interesting. I do have one more question, just because I was quite interested. I was watching this Red Pill streamer, President, I think his name's President something.
Oh, he's
I
a
forget
Red
his
Bull
name.
streamer?
Yes, I forget. I think I was going to tweet it because I was very interested. Actually, it will probably be in my drafts. I'm so sorry. I'm just looking for it because I was so fascinated by this. Oh yes, President Dream is a Red Pill sort of guy, and he recently was on this stream with another Red Pill dude, and they were talking about all these Red Pill women who've emerged, just pearly things,
Everyone's
and
complaining.
they are not happy with you, and they don't like you at all. They think that you're sort of a grifter. They are warning their audiences, especially their male audiences, against you. I was just curious in terms of, would you consider yourself firstly sort of in this community, and sort of how do you navigate that in terms of being in sort of a space, or sort of seen as sort of a threat to a space where you are, at least by individuals who seemingly are sort of, I guess, on your side of things. How do you navigate that?
So I mean, what I've tried to do is talk to men who I believe have good character that are in the space. I've actually interviewed quite a few of them, because if you go and look at Red Pill content focused on things that you're interested in, like monogamy, you can actually get some pretty decent stuff out there. And that's all I was worried about. I was like, well, geez, like what do men like? First of all, I think it's sad that I had to hear from the Red Pill community that men like feminine women and that it's okay for women to be feminine. I think that that's something that I should have learned from women, but that's why I talk about girl games so much, is because I think our mothers are derelict of their duty to teach us how to get a man that we like and love and how to keep him. So, I mean, I just went on my own little journey, and I've deep dived a lot more than some of these red pill commentators. I've spoken with characters like Rollo Tomasi, Ryan Stone, I think RP Thor, and then just like the whole gambit. I've talked to Donovan Sharp. There's another, also, people just don't understand the history of it too. There's a split faction in the red pill when it comes to the Rollo Tomasi side of things, and then that's why they're calling it the Mana Swamp now, and then the 21 Studios side of things. So they're split anyway. But I think it's okay that these guys don't like me, because I mean, to be frank, I don't give a damn if you like me or not. Like, I was just trying to see what mental models and paradigms were out there to look at intergender dynamics and what credibility some of them had. And I found that there was a lot of interesting red pill theory that you could just look. And it's done without morals, right? It's an amoral lens to just see, does this thing work? And that's something that I did within my own marriage, where I just wanted to see, do some of these things work? Acts of feminine kindness, do they work? And I would do them, and lo and behold, it really turned around a lot of things in my marriage for me. But these men being conspiratorial and warning men against consuming my content, one, you're doing the same thing that feminists do, where feminists say women are too soft, they can be taken advantage of, these are unaware victims. You're doing that same thing, but to grown men, telling them like, oh, you don't know any better, you shouldn't be watching this female commentator. And also, you're trying to tell men what to do when you're not supposed to be necessarily giving prescriptions when it comes to the red pill. Men are supposed to be their own men. You just give them the information about whatever endeavor they're trying to pursue when it comes to a sexual mating strategy. That's pretty much all it's supposed to be. And the other thing is too, if we're talking about the fact that men are supposed to be their own men, you're giving women a lot of power. If you think about it, you're giving us power and dominion over you, my male viewers, that it didn't even really need to be implied. And they very rarely address the fact that YouTube is a male-dominated platform. I don't think I could get rid of my male audience even if I tried or if I wanted to. Not that I do. It's just a natural phenomenon. Even Mooncat, she's a very feminist, I think, commentator. Yeah, and she still has a predominantly male audience. And Jordan Peterson has said the same thing, that it's like a 80% male engagement. And there have been times where my female engagement has been really high, something like 34%. But that's whenever I go on the leftist progressive side of things and I talk, and then they trickle over every single time. Yeah. So they can be mad if they want to, but half the time I know more about red pill content than the men that are making these new channels. So
yes. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, I love your content. I really do. I find it very interesting, even when I don't agree. It's definitely, I think, for me at least, my opinions and my perspective on things, I'm very open to other perspectives, because I think, at least in terms of my satisfaction with my life and where I am personally, I'm not satisfied. I'm not like as happy as I think I could be. And so I'm very open to sort of finding other perspectives, other avenues, in order to try and sort of engage more with myself and with things like that. So I thank you for helping me with that. And I'm sure we're going to talk again and everything. Yes. So thank you for calling in and saving me on the street.
Oh yeah, of course. No, I'm happy to. If you look at my Substack articles, because a lot of them are behind a paywall, but I can give you a secret link from behind the scenes. If you're like, I saw you wrote about this, I didn't see the complete take, I'm happy to send it to you behind the scenes for free. So.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah,
I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. See you later.
See you later. Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.